All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's time to get started for today. My name is Scott Travis. I'm the program director for Work Plus, and I'm super excited to kick off our first spring showcase event of this year. But before we begin, I wanted to give a special shout out to all of our working learners in attendance. We have representation from all of our Metro Phoenix campuses, as well as our team joining us from our Lake Havasu campus. So welcome to all participants, supervisors, working learners, and anyone else that's here today. As many of you know, this week is National Student Employee Appreciation Week. Our student workers, are integral to the functioning of so many of our units and really to ASU as a whole. So I love that we get a whole week to celebrate you all. So happy National Student Employee Appreciation Week to all of our working learners. We very much appreciate all of your hard work and everything you do for us in our units. We have a really great event planned for you today. We're going to start out with a fantastic employer panel that's focused on the skills and most important to employers and how to take advantage of your student work experience. Following that, if you go to the next slide, we're going to see our agenda. Followed by that, we'll have our student story spotlight and Q&A, where we're going to hear from two of our amazing working learners, Faith and Jasper, about their experience as a working learner. One thing that I wanted to note, before we get started, is that we'll be giving away $25 Amazon gift cards throughout today's event. To be eligible for those gift cards, you need to be an ASU student, you need to be registered for this event, and then obviously you need to be in attendance. If you meet all those criteria, you'll be eligible to be picked. We'll go ahead and draw our first winner right now. And it looks like our first winner, is Rand Jafar. You are our first winner of our $25 gift card. You'll be getting an email from the Work Plus program office letting you know that directions to claim that gift card. You're welcome, Rand. Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and kick it over to Abby Anderson, our program coordinator for Work Plus. She's going to be moderating our employer panel. So Abby, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Before we get started, I do want to let everyone know that you are more than welcome to post any questions that you may have for our employers in the Q&A option through the webinar here. We do have someone moderating that, and if time allows, we will address those live. I'm excited to introduce our employer panel. We have two ASU alumni joining us today. First, we have Rachel Collier. Rachel is a human resource generalist for the Boys and Girls Club of the Valley. Rachel, do you mind coming off mute and just kind of introducing yourself a little bit more for us?
I'd be happy to. Can everyone hear me okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Abby. Scott, it's great to be here. Thank you to everybody listening from Boys and Girls Clubs of the Valley. I'm on the HR team as a generalist, and some of my responsibilities include onboarding, recruitment, different projects on the team pertaining to performance engagement, and so on. So I'm just really happy to be here and excited to share some information with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rachel. We are happy to have you with us today. Next, we also have Lisa Ample joining us. Lisa is a group talent manager for Enterprise Holdings. Lisa, do you mind coming off mute and introducing yourself a little bit more too?
Yeah, of course. My name is Lisa Ample, and I'm the talent manager here at Enterprise. And what that means is I oversee all the hiring, recruiting, and training for the state of Arizona. I've been with Enterprise for 18 years, and I've had several interviews that I've done, so a lot of experience in this.
Unmuted. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing that with us. So let's just go ahead and get right into it and start with our questions that we have. So for our first one, what skills are you all seeking in any candidate, regardless of the position? what are you guys really looking for in recent graduates coming to the career force?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think communication is such an important one, where if you're looking at sales, if you're looking at customer service, just dealing with the public, communication is such a big thing, working as part of a team. We use behavioral interviewing here at Enterprise. So, we're looking at things that you did in the past that are going to predict the future. So it's super helpful when you've had a job and you've had experience dealing with the public, and you can absolutely use examples from the classroom, but really using that previous experience is very, very impactful for us. And the other thing is professionalism and work ethic. It's a short period of time, right? If you're at a career for a very short period of time and you're not able to show that you have that work ethic, that actually doesn't look great for employers. So we're looking that you have some sort of commitment and you have that work ethic that's going to help you with that, staying with a job, I guess.
That's awesome. Thank you for those insights. Rachel, do you have anything that you would like to add, or maybe that you see differently with the Boys and Girls Club of the Valley?
Absolutely. I would agree with Lisa in terms of communication. That was number one on our list of skill set for any potential employee coming in with us as an organization. We serve youth, and being able to articulate our mission as a nonprofit, and also serving our members, the youth that we serve, being able to be that role model, giving specific clear directions when it comes to safety and keeping them engaged and inspired. Communication is so key with that. And the other two skills that I listed that are so critically important for any position with us, number one being equity and inclusion. So our members come from all kinds of rich cultures and backgrounds. And so our staff are building inclusive programming for them to help with their development, engagement, and growth. And then the third being teamwork. So being able to work with other employees in an in-person setting, in our case, serving youth in the interest of their safety and engagement, to be able to collaborate and make sure that we're providing the best environment possible for our kids.
Absolutely. I think those are all great. And I really love that you touched on the equity and inclusion one too, just because I feel like that might be a newer concept or, a competency to grasp onto. So I love that you highlighted that one, Rachel. Thank you.
Thanks.
What types of experiences have you all found helpful when in making new graduates career ready? So what is something that we can be doing now at the university level before they enter your career force? Different experiences that you would think is helpful for them?
For that, I had in mind internships as well as job shadowing. I think both are great, but really just having, meaningful part-time work experiences are great, student employment, whatever kind of opportunities are out there that can help build those skills that you need, and being able to demonstrate that in your resume, in your interviewing. And I'll also add, for me personally as an experience, having a mentor was huge. So creating mentorship opportunities. I would never have ended up in HR had I not had a mentor to even tell me what that was and what HR professionals did.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that. Internships are absolutely fantastic. So it's kind of a long job interview too with internships to see if they're going to take you on as an employee, So those are absolutely fantastic. I agree 100% with the mentorship. I mean, that has definitely taken me a long way in my career as well. And just having any type of experience with a customer and being able to show a company that you're comfortable dealing with customers and solving problems on your own, really, any of that is going to help you in the future for sure.
Absolutely. And just kind of going off of that, something that personally that I noticed as a student and then now as a professional, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I was like intimidated by the word internship, right? And I was scared to be thrown into that real world experience. But as you just mentioned, Lisa, I mean, a lot of the times your internship will lead you to that career after graduation. And that's exactly what I experienced. And so now I'm here to say that internships are not scary. They do not need to be scary, and they will help you for your future. Thank you. I know that I think, Rachel, you had mentioned a little bit about student employment and getting that kind of experience, but how do either you or Lisa think student employment or working in general while getting your education is benefiting students and their professional growth?
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like, working and going to school is a huge accomplishment, a big accomplishment. So, super proud of you guys for doing that. It really shows that you can manage your time and you can prioritize. There's a lot of things that are going to pop up at work or, at school, and you're going to have to plan for that. You're going to have to make adjustments on the fly. Sometimes you get called into work or you have an exam. Hopefully you knew about it, but maybe not. And you have to, hey, I can't work this night because I need to do this. So you have to really be able to prioritize that. And I think, being someone that works during college, I learned a lot about that there.
Absolutely. I agree. I think showing that you can manage your time, building those skills while you're working part-time or a student job, can really build your resume, give you that experience, and also allows you to make connections in that part-time position or student employment that will get you to that dream full-time job that you have later. Everyone that you meet and interact with in every opportunity should always stay in touch. Absolutely.
Did either of you guys work while obtaining your degree? And if so, how do you think that benefited you personally? What experiences would you have wanted to have in a student job?
You ready to take it?
Go ahead. I'll go next.
I did work while I was in college. So I drove a beverage cart on a golf course, which was the best job ever. Not the best career, but the best job ever. I just learned a lot of dealing with customers and people skills and organization. I mean, kind of like I was talking about on the last question, but you really have to plan out your life with that and, look at the syllabus that the professor had and have that communication with work and with school, because if you're not communicating that, it's going to be really hard to accomplish both. So just making sure you're communicating with your manager as well as your professors to make sure that you're able to do both things at once.
Absolutely. I worked as well during the entirety of my studies for my bachelor's, and I worked in senior living. So I started out as a server at a retirement community, and I ended up working there for a total of 8 years. So that was the opportunity where I was mentored and trained to do HR, having, put in the work when I was younger and meeting some great mentors. It was a great opportunity for me, but I agree with what Lisa said, knowing what you're able to handle work-wise, creating that balance and maybe putting some boundaries in place as well. If you know you can only work a certain amount of hours, planning ahead and being transparent and communicating that as well.
Awesome, thank you. What are your recommendations for highlighting certain skills or these career competencies that our working learners are focusing on? What are your recommendations on highlighting those on their resume?
I think one of the biggest things that I would recommend is having specific examples, accomplishments, tie it to data in any way you can. I find that just listing your skill set isn't enough. You need to be able to demonstrate it, have some evidence. And I'll also say, including a portfolio or additional attachments is great when applying for a position. Resumes ideally are 1 page long, maybe 2. So if you have that additional information you want to share and bring out, I always say doing a portfolio, cover letter, to be able to demonstrate some of those accomplishments, the skills that you've attained, and giving some real specific examples.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we usually just get a resume to start. Our candidates will upload a resume, and definitely want to keep that to about that 1 page. You don't need to put everything on there. I think some people put too much, and it's a good overview for me to get excited to meet you. But then during the interview, that's where I'm going to get all of the information. So putting, the most important stuff, the highlights on there. You don't necessarily need to go back 15, 20 years on there. You can put the most recent, and then we can ask questions about things to get kind of deeper in that if we need to.
So kind of in the same sense, what are recommendations that you all have when it comes to highlighting these skills, these career competencies in an interview? So when I'm meeting with you face to face, how am I highlighting that I have these good communication skills? I am a critical thinker. What are the best ways for me to prove that to you in an interview?
Yeah, I think just research the job, know what you're going in for. If you're going in for a sales position, I would have some examples of sales that you've been in. If you're going in for a customer service position, kind of have that ready. If you know the competencies that the job is looking for and you know that ahead of time, that's going to really set you up for success.
Yeah, and I would say don't be afraid to get creative. For example, one of our major skill sets that we seek out is that equity and inclusion. Maybe you were a member of diversity club and mentioned some kind of project that you're involved with. So if you may not necessarily have specific professional experience, tie it to some kind of opportunity you've had, service learning, volunteerism, clubs, etc.
Awesome. And I do just want to kind of reflect back for our audience here. As Rachel and Lisa have both indicated, having those quick examples and whatnot ready for how you have these skills. I just want to reflect back on through the campus pathway. If you are an active working learner in our program, you are building those stories on each competency. And that is exactly what those storytelling pieces are for, is to help you be able to quickly articulate that, yes, I have these communication skills. This is a great example of when and how I've used that skill. Just to bring that back to the pathway a little bit and clear up any confusion that students may have had there. I do see that we have a question in our Q&A that I'm going to address real fast. They're asking, is it necessary to have a student job to stand as a potential candidate for an internship or a career post-graduation?
For us, no, it's not something that you have to have. If you don't have a job, we definitely look at like clubs that you've been in or fraternity, sorority, sports, those types of things. We'll look at that as well. I mean, having a job is great because I feel like you can pull a lot of answers from that and it just makes you a little bit more marketable. But we hire people that have had jobs and haven't, for internships for sure. And then for a career, if you can show us that you have those leadership skills in a different way or communication skills, we can definitely go around that too.
I agree with Lisa. Well said.
Okay, so I know that, again, Lisa, you had even said that working while going to school, like that in itself is a huge commitment and, something to be proud of while doing. But what if I'm an individual that I'm not able to handle a job on top of my schoolwork? How am I highlighting any class projects or, if there's been community projects with a class, how am I highlighting that schoolwork on my resume or even in an interview?
Yeah, I think you can definitely list the clubs and kind of what role you held in that club and what you did in that club. A lot of times we'll ask, one of my questions is, tell me about a time you sold something to someone and you're just really proud of the sale. And we have people that sometimes they're like, I haven't sold anything to someone. And then we think, it doesn't have to be a product. It can be an idea. And I think at ASU for sure, and a lot of the colleges, they do so much group work, which I wish we did more when I was in college. I think it teaches so much and it just makes me so happy as a recruiter. But all of those group work that you do, take that leadership role, tell us how you did it. And that's a great way to sell yourself as well.
Yes, I'd agree with that. I think, to my development of my communication skills over the years, some of it was developed through working, but a big portion of it was through my studies and also through extracurriculars. I was a West Campus student and I was a big part of the call communication lab over there, where we practiced public speaking and helped other students with their speeches. And that really helped me with my communication skills. So I agree. I think you're able to highlight it in the different kind of schoolwork that you take on, any extracurriculars, and getting kind of creative and giving yourself credit as you're building those skills. You may not think about it as something that you'd list professionally, but being able to tie it in, give yourself credit for those things.
Awesome. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading another one that I have right here. Okay, so this is a great question. how do I talk about my student position that I have on campus if it's not directly related to the field that I'm wanting to get into after graduation? It was a position that was open and I needed the money, so I took it. How can I relate that to my future career?
I think that there are certain skills that are desirable for any employer that translate across every field. Being dependable, having those communication skills. I can't think of a job that wouldn't require that. Coming down to the foundational skills that you really can gain from any job, putting a positive spin on it, and really focuses on things that you learned and how you grew in that opportunity.
Couldn't have said it better.
I love that. That was a great answer. Thank you, Rachel. Do either of you have any recommendations as to how a student can ask their supervisor for new or even just a different variety of responsibilities that they are seeing would be a skill that they want to work on, or just to help them build more skills without having to change their position as a whole?
Yeah, I think, asking to do a job shadow in a different area is something that we're really good at here. Is if you're interested in something, go shadow that person for a little while and see what they do. I think if you kind of research a little bit and you know exactly, hey, this is what I want to do, or, can I learn this? Instead of just saying, teach me something new, which I think a lot of people do, actually going and telling them, hey, I want to learn this aspect. And I think people are pretty open to that. No one's going to say, no, I don't want you to know all that information. We want you to know that. We want you to be better. We're here for you. So I think if you just ask, that's the best way to do that.
I think that can feel a little bit, depending on how well you know your boss, a little intimidating. But I always recommend, when, give yourself a little time, maybe let them know, can we talk one-on-one, and maybe schedule some time. That way you don't feel like you're rushed. If you're working on the floor in customer service or retail or what have you, you have time to really sit with them and explain what it is you're seeking. So.
That's great advice. Thank you. Another good question that we just had added to the Q&A here, and just so you both know, Rachel and Lisa, part of our pathway here within the Work Plus program that our students are experiencing and actively participating in is building their portfolio. And I know that you had mentioned a little bit about having that portfolio ready. But a question that we have here is, how can I make my portfolio stand out? How can I make sure that mine is one that you are going to remember out of all the others that you may be viewing?
Well, for me personally, this is just my opinion, but I think a lot of people get very hung up on styling and design. And I personally don't look to that as much. I think it's great for something to look professional, but I'm really looking, excuse me, at content and being able to communicate concisely. And those are a couple of the major things that I would personally be looking for. And once again, as I mentioned before, those specifics. So giving specific examples and tying it to your skills. And as Lisa said earlier as well, how you can tie it specifically to the job that you're applying for. So I think most of us, it's nice to just have one, portfolio for every opportunity we apply for, but being able to tailor it to the opportunity specifically that you're applying for in that moment is really nice to tailor it as well.
So kind of going off of that, are there any specific items or examples that should be included in that portfolio that you're looking for?
I think if you know the competencies of the job, and a lot of times you can look up that stuff on different websites to kind of see what they're looking for, look at that company's website, and just really add those competencies in there. If you're looking at a sales job, you don't need to talk about being a mechanic. You just want to put the stuff that's going to really catch that person's eye and it's going to relate to that position.
Yes, and one example, in the kind of work we do, working with youth, programming, giving an example of a lesson plan that you've done before is always great to see, I know, for the applications we receive.
Absolutely. So this is a good question here. What is the most common skill that you all are seeing in recent graduates that they could develop more, or that there might be a deficiency within. Is there a certain skill that's standing out that students should kind of focus a little bit more on and be more prepared as they're entering the career force?
I don't know if it's necessarily a skill that I'm seeing, but I'm seeing a lot of people are not researching the companies. And, you know, there's so many people are hiring right now. We're all hiring, right? There's so many different jobs out there. So, you know, I don't expect you to know everything about our company or be able to sell me on the company. That's my job to sell you. But I think you just need to research a little bit. Sometimes I'll interview someone for a sales position and they'll be like, oh, I hate sales. And I'm like, so why are we wasting each other's time, you know? So I think just really the biggest thing I see is just research the company and know what you're applying for.
I think that's the key right there. Sorry, Rachel, to cut you off, but knowing and having a good understanding of what the position and what your job duties are going to entail is probably one of the largest keys, because as you just said, Lisa, if somebody applied for a position and then in the interview, they're like, oh no, sales is not my thing at all, then like you said, then why are you here? Why are we having this interview right now? So having that understanding of, okay, if I get this job, this is my duty, this is what I'll be doing, this is what my average day might look like. And that might even be a good question to ask in the interview, is if you did look at the job description and see what those duties are, but kind of hesitant, you know, ask, what's the average day look like? So that was a great point. Sorry, Rachel, to cut you off, but
no, I completely relate to that. I have had more calls than I would like where I have a candidate that says, yeah, I'm real excited to be talking to you about this position at the YMCA. And I'm like, we're not YMCA, we're Boys and Girls Clubs. So that's, you know, doing some research, knowing, you know, who you're talking to, being prepared. And also, now I know this probably wouldn't happen with any of the participants on the Zoom today, but you know, we have a culture where a lot of folks just kind of ghost, you know, they disappear when you may have reached out and not heard back, or gotten to a point where there's been a phone screen, or they just aren't calling us back as the employers. And I always say, if it's something you realize that isn't a good fit or you're not interested in, following up, letting the employer know, thanks for your time. And you just never know, a better opportunity may come up at that employer down the road. You may not get that call if you disappear. So that's something that I'm seeing a lot, and that's just my recommendation with that.
No, that's a great recommendation too, because as you said, it can come down to not answering your phone because it's an unknown number. But you know, if you've recently applied for jobs, you should be expecting those unknown numbers. You should probably be answering those calls, right? Not just ghosting the company or the interview that you may have had. So speaking of researching the companies, what are the best ways to research the company? What kind of information am I looking for? Is it, you know, mainly like the culture, or should I know deep down, like what started your company and why are you doing what you do now? What kind of information should I be looking for?
One thing I would add to that, just being in the nonprofit world, and I think this is something that, you know, I've done even when I started my position at Boys and Girls Clubs of the Valley, charity navigator, going out to different sites to, you know, learn the credibility of the organization, Better Business Bureau. You know, if you are going out, you want to start a career somewhere, you want to make sure their practices are ethical and that they've got good reviews out there. That's something that I do personally, in addition to researching different like news articles about that company and extensively looking into their website as well.
Yeah, I think Glassdoor is a really good place to find a lot of information as well. And, you know, I can't tell you one thing I think you should research. I think it's what's important to you. If it's the hours, if it's the company culture, if it's, you know, the longevity, whatever it is, I think that's what you're going to want to look for. Look at the bad reviews. Look at the great reviews. I mean, a lot of people are going to write the bad stuff and not as much of the great. So you kind of have to look at that and see if it's important to you or not.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point to keep in mind for sure. Sorry, I was looking, I had a question just right there at the tip of my tongue, and then it flew right out the window, which is very typical for me, but sorry about that. But we do have another one here in our Q&A. What are good ways to communicate my excitement about this specific position?
come out and say it. I mean, so many times I think people just hold back on that and they're not themselves. And I tell people all the time, just be yourself, because the last thing you want to do is be someone that you're not, and then you go into that interview and you get the job, and then you have to be someone that you're not going to be. Just be yourself and say don't say anything silly, right? But let them know at the end, like, this sounds amazing. You've inspired me. I want to be a part of this company. And you telling them that goes such a long way, not just letting them think like, oh yeah, I interviewed and I applied, so obviously I want the spot, right? You really have to tell them that.
I agree. And I think a lot of how we convey that is in our nonverbals. So, smiling, making that eye contact, your tone of voice shows that you're excited as well. I had a phone call with someone today that barely spoke above a whisper, and I had a really hard time understanding them. And I thought, I can't tell if you're excited about the opportunity. So you can really show that in your nonverbals while still remaining professional.
Absolutely. So here's a good question, and it's something that ASU we really utilize and are try to encourage students to participate in more. But what roles, if any, have you seen LinkedIn or Handshake playing in regards to getting a job? Is that something that you all are utilizing? Are you guys looking at that?
I look at Handshake all the time. I send out a lot of campaigns, so you may have even gotten an email from me. But I like to definitely look at Handshake. I think that is such a great resource. I mean, Indeed is fantastic, but there's so many people on Indeed, and I'm a Sun Devil, and I want to look for Sun Devils, so there I am. But trying to find people on Handshake and really update your resume on there, put your resume on there if it's not on there to begin with, and put your major, put when you're graduating, all of those things, because that's definitely stuff that I would say we are searching for all the time.
I agree. We're beginning to utilize Handshake as well as LinkedIn. And I always think, I agree with everything Lisa said. And maybe one thing as well, to just be sure you're including kind of what you're seeking. I think it's always great to see from somebody's profile, this is the kind of job I'm looking for right now. This is my career goals. To be able to see that kind of in a snapshot on that profile is always great.
So when looking at our profiles, whether it's my LinkedIn, my Handshake, my Indeed, I don't have a profile on that one, right? I don't think so. Do I?
Yeah.
See, maybe I need to update my Indeed profile then. What can I have on my profile to make it eye-catching and really stand out to you as an employer?
I think on LinkedIn, one of the big things is put your open to opportunity. That's one of the first things that I search for is someone that has, updated their profile or has been online in the last week and it says open to opportunity. And also, where do you want to work? Do you want to work in Tempe? Do you want to work in Oklahoma? Like, let us know those things so that we can make that decision. A lot of times it's not just your major. So you're a business major, you want to be in sales. No, maybe you're an agriculture major and you want to be in sales. Like, let us know that. But if you put that you're open to opportunity, I think you're going to get a lot more people reaching out to you.
I agree.
Absolutely. And that's something that when I was, just about to graduate with my undergrad degree and I was looking for the jobs, it was definitely, I was like, I'm young, I have no ties here. Why not just be open to literally any opportunity and see where I can go from there, right? Thank you guys so much for those tidbits of advice. Before we wrap up here with our employer panel, is there any final advice that either of you would like to share with our group?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, perfect.
Still thinking.
I want to say, first off, you guys are doing a great job. It is not easy to juggle a job and school. So if you're able to do that, you're great. Make sure you communicate with your manager. Make sure you communicate with your professors if something comes up. I mean, I kind of said that before, but having a job during college is really going to teach you so much, and it's going to put you further ahead than other candidates. When you have that experience at work and something goes really well, you had a great customer experience, write that down. When you go into an interview, you have a list of a couple of customer experiences, a couple of sales, a couple of whatever you're looking for, right? Whatever the competencies for that job is, and you have a couple of stories, you're not going to read the story to them or anything like that, but if it can jog your memory and just make it that easy, you have the answers to the test there. So when they ask you a question, you don't have to think about it as long, and you're using the stories that you have, predetermined. And I think that will make your interview that much better.
Absolutely. That was the first thing that came to mind, was get as much as you can out of every opportunity, even if it's your part-time job through college. Like Lisa said, make that list, keep things in mind for later when you're ready to demonstrate those skills. I would also say, keep track of your references, those people that you've met along the way in your part-time job, at your student employment, and stay connected with them. And it really will pay off later in terms of other opportunities that may come up. References, always try to stay connected. It can be hard because you get busy, you're extremely busy as a student and working. Try to keep those connections as you go along.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for all of your advice, taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with us today. It's greatly appreciated. And is there any type of contact information you'd like to give for our students if they would like to reach out? Like, I can toss that in the chat for them if you guys don't mind. Otherwise, thank you both so much for your time. It was wonderful hearing from you both.
I'm just typing my email address in there right now, and you can also find me on LinkedIn as Lisa Ample. So I just typed my email address and look for me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa.
I'll add mine too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hope you ladies have a wonderful rest of your day.
You
Too.
So before we continue on with our showcase for today, I would love to do our second Amazon gift card winner. So let me pull that up real fast. And it looks like Miley Howe. Miley, you are our winner for the second gift card. And as Scott had mentioned, you will be receiving that gift card here within the next week or so via email. So be on the lookout for that. Up next, though, we do have our student panel. We will have Madison Parker moderating this panel for us. Madison is a current working learner in the Work Plus program office. Madison, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Abby. Hi, everyone. My name is Madison, and I'm the communication specialist for the Work Plus program. I'm so excited to be here to moderate this panel for you all today, and I'm honored to introduce our two panelists, Faith and Jasper. Faith, would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am Faith. I'm a student success coach right now. That's how I'm associated with Work Plus, and I am majoring in biology and politics and the economy. So I'm a double major and in my third year.
Awesome, thank you. And Jasper, would you mind introducing yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hello and good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, my name is Jasper. I'm actually co-workers with Faith, so we do work at the center together. A bit about myself: I am a graduating senior studying finance here at the W.P. Carey School of Business. And for other positions that I've held at the university in the past, I was also working in housing as a community assistant, as well as being a finance TA at my time here. And nonetheless, excited for the opportunity and hope everyone's doing well.
Great, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and get right into the questions for today. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions of your own, just feel free to pop them in the Q&A portion and we'll hopefully get to them towards the end. So let's just go ahead and start. So our first question is, what benefits have you gotten out of participating in Work Plus?
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest benefits was opening up that dialogue to speak with supervisors and coworkers about some of the content we're learning. Last semester, especially for me, felt really eye-opening because I worked with leadership for my module, and I got a really great conversation with my supervisor out of that. So that was one of the biggest benefits to me.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah, and then I think for myself, with the question, of course, being back to what exactly are the benefits that I've gotten out of being a participant or a member of the Work Plus program. I guess like kind of before I go into like answering that question for you, Madison, I think like as students, me and my Faith ourselves, being really on that ground level, like where you kind of see what it's like being as a student that wants to like learn or level up even. A lot of us really want to take that next step, or for many of us even out there, it's even taking that first step, even like what exactly is the first thing I can do to kind of get the dominoes to line in my favor. But I think what's really important is to really remember what the big picture is at the end of the day and where Work Plus benefits us. That is Work Plus, at least in my eyes, is that it's just an infrastructure for us, the user, or in this case, the students, to really leverage as we navigate through this college experience. And one thing that I always kind of tell myself that I apply for this like never ending journey of learning is that to really just enjoy this journey without ever focusing too much on the destination. And in particular, relating this back to which modules that I wanted to focus on. I know Faith did leadership, but for me, I wanted to really strengthen my storytelling as well as that of technology as well.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so our next question was, has Work Plus really helped you solidify you in like your career goals, like just kind of what you're looking for in the future?
Yeah, I can go for this one first. I know for me especially, right, I bring kind of that perspective of, hey, I'm about to graduate, like what exactly do I want to do? Do I want to go back into education? Do I want to start full-time work, of course? And of course, career goals, whether we like it or not, they're always going to be shifting and changing. And really life is going to really throw a wrench to our plans on a weekly basis, sometimes even a day-to-day basis. And that there really is no particular route that can guarantee anything. But relating this back to the solidifying career goals, that is, I remember actually back earlier in the spring semester, Work Plus held a really good information session, or webinar, I should say, regarding leveraging the platform that is LinkedIn. So I definitely really wanted to be attentive in that discussion. And then from there, it was allowing me to see firsthand the importance of the relationships, as well as building CRM, or customer relationship management, for those of you who are unaware with that term. But as someone that will be starting a career as an analyst in the finance department, I definitely feel like understanding, or better being accustomed to using CRM and definitely leveraging relationships. I'm interested in maybe wanting to expand into sales or even business development as well. And I think that's really been helpful with the modules, particularly in storytelling, and really helping me develop that business acumen and getting really ramped up to speed with everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I think it came at a good time right now. I'm applying for internships and things like that. And so part of the storytelling aspect of Work Plus helped me kind of tangibly make my goals, and as well as give me an opportunity to look into some of the other ways I can kind of expand what I want, some of my soft skills. So I know Jasper brought up like LinkedIn. I know one thing I did during like the Work Plus time we were allotted was I made an appointment with my career advisor and talked about graduate school with them. And so that was actually the first time I actually talked about graduate school with someone. So that was wonderful. So yeah, it's been really beneficial.
That's great. That's so awesome. I'm glad. I know personally as well, I've been seeing like so many amazing benefits from the Work Plus program. It's been so awesome. So our next question up is, what competency did you choose to focus on this semester? And along that lines, what did you do to enhance your growth in that area?
So I started with equity and inclusion this semester. And I think it made me a lot more curious. So I talked to some of my coworkers about what they thought about equity and inclusion and how it can be approached in the workplace. And it got me thinking a lot more about what kind of culture do you want to work in? And, obviously you want to work in one that's more inclusive. But how do you have that? How can you tell a culture has that? Things like that. And along with that, it did make me go want to join there's a club on campus. I think it was Culture Talks, if I remember it right. I was only in there, went to the club a few times because I got busy, but it was nice to kind of explore that a little more. So.
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, so just to make sure I heard the question correctly, because I do want to make sure I touch on it. It was, what was the particular focus that we wanted to go into the spring semester with? Is that correct, Madison?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, for sure. So yeah, for this semester, particularly, I wanted to more or less really hone in technology. This is more of a personal anecdote, but for me, I'm really interested in really starting a career in that of the IT space, particularly one day, maybe even that of software as a service, which is another story for another day. I won't bore you guys with that tangent, but the reason I guess why I really wanted to like understand technology is, of course, whether we like it or not, technology is increasingly expanding into our day-to-day lives. And this actually tied in really nicely because this semester as well, I'm taking a class with Professor Willman, Marketing 494, but it's basically using technology and data and that of sales. So it's really fascinating that how I was able to draw the parallels, and more importantly, being able to be more competent, like with technology such as like what we are right now on Zoom, Slack, which is quite popular, and even the simple Outlook and Microsoft Office suite. Being able to really have a workflow that works for you and not the other way around is definitely really critical, especially when wanting to be a competitive candidate and being able to achieve those KPIs when it's time to perform for the organization, of course.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. And kind of along those lines, I was also wondering, what were some current strengths that the Work Plus program has kind of helped you build? I know you kind of touched on like a certain competency that you focused on this semester, but was there anything from the past that you really saw the Work Plus program helped you grow?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, I guess like the easiest one that comes top of mind is storytelling. Definitely, I think without question, whether you have 1 year of storytelling or 100 years of storytelling, there's always room to improve. And I think really as someone that wanted to seek to take it for what it was and try to like find some value or learn from it, coming in with fully intent of wanting to get better with my storytelling, I think that's something that I came into with the right mindset, and it kind of was able to trickle into this never-ending journey of wanting to become a expert in that, not even an expert, just someone that's really good and comfortable in that field. So storytelling for me, but of course I'm happy to elaborate further if needed.
Absolutely. That was great.
Yeah, similarly for me, I kind of thought of it more as just communication, just because along with storytelling, you have to tell that story to someone. And for me, it was kind of getting connected more with the work environment. Like my supervisor often says I'm more reserved, even though our job is really social. So for me, it was kind of saying, okay, what kind of things do I have to say for certain people, and why is it important? Getting that motivation to start conversations with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just kind of peering over at our Q&A section too. I do see a couple in here as well. One says, as an upperclassman, had the program been available your first year, would you have participated in it?
I can start with answering this one, and then of course if Faith wants to jump in, by all means. I guess short answer, if I even had a clue of what I wanted to do when I was like in my first couple of years, I think that's that would even be a head start. I'll be honest, going into college, long story short, I actually changed my major one time. So when I definitely came into this first year as a freshman, I thought like, oh man, I know what I'm going to exactly do. I have everything planned out, and lo and behold, definitely got humbled and definitely figured out like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back and realize I don't know exactly what I want to do. But that's definitely okay, right? Because you want to make sure you can take comfort in not knowing what exactly you want to do out there. But of course, I'm kind of starting to figure things out as you steer your ship, for lack of a better word. But as far as the program goes, I think the better or the sooner that you can start working on professional development or kind of developing that personal narrative, definitely the better. At the end of the day, it's an infrastructure that you guys, or you students, for those of you that are listening, should definitely use or cater to however your liking is, customize it to how you learn the best. And then truly what you put in will be what you get at the end of the day. So that's my 2 cents of the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, I think I definitely would have loved to utilize it earlier. In part because it probably would have helped my reserved nature to open up a little bit more, and also in part because I'm naturally really curious, and so seeing like the different competencies, I would have loved to go through more of them throughout the years. So that's kind of my.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's great. Another one that kind of popped up in here. What 2 or 3 NACE like competency skills are most important to success in your current roles?
I'd say the one I'm working on right now, equity and inclusion, because we work with a large range of students. Personally, I work with exploratory students, and so really anything goes in that major. And so kind of keeping that open mind and recognizing how are you speaking and your body language, how is it inviting and welcoming. And so that's really a big one for me, especially just mostly because we just work with a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Jasper?
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, it's like when Faith said equity and inclusion, of course, as with coworkers, I couldn't help but nod because she definitely hit it on the head. I would say if I was to add anything else, I think even as something as broad as communication can always be important. Kind of just like echoing what she says is you really do have such a wide range of people that you really speak to on a day-to-day basis, coming in with different backgrounds, different beliefs, and definitely different upbringings. So also being aware of the equity inclusion part, but also being able to understand which communication tactics are for the right place at the right time. Like that situational awareness can definitely be really important. And I think that's a really good module to focus on, especially not just in work, but also day-to-day conversations as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I'm actually working on communication as my competency for this semester. So I definitely feel like it's very, very beneficial. It's absolutely fantastic. Another question here in the chat is, what recommendations would you provide for somebody who's nervous to talk to their supervisor? And how would you ask for new tasks or new responsibilities if you were looking for something like that?
Yeah, so that's something I struggle with a lot. So for me, what I do is think, okay, I want to be concise and to the point. And so the best way to do that is to be direct, honestly. Send a direct message saying, this is what I want, and this is why. Do you have a few minutes to talk? And then from there, they take it over, and it's pretty much off your back, and it's a lot easier to go from there.
Definitely. And I think to add on that, with the question being right, how to overcome the anxiety of wanting to speak with a supervisor. I'll actually kind of share one of the things that our supervisor has actually shared, and this is with Katie Collins. And what she kind of emphasizes is, and I know Faith is smiling, but she says there's always 3 things that you should go into every situation. It's like, what is the best case scenario that can happen? What is the worst case scenario that can happen? And truly, like, what's the most likely scenario to happen? Because truly, if you break down like why people are really nervous, a lot of times it would just be really external reasons. You're not really sure what's going to happen, kind of engaging in this interaction. So being able to plot the dots of like, okay, this is worst case, and I doubt worst case would be they fire you, or God forbid, but there's always worst case, right? Best case, maybe I don't know, something really nice happens and you really like earn their respect. And then most likely is you'll be able to at least come out of that conversation knowing that you everything that you wanted to seek in that engagement, you definitely were able to get. So
absolutely, that's amazing. That's such a great piece of advice. I think just to kind of close out here, it doesn't really look like we have any more questions in the chat. So just to kind of close out, would you guys both be willing to kind of share your professional story with us at all?
Yeah, so I'll start. So for me, I'm interested in taking my 2 majors into public health, specifically the legislative side of it. And the reason that is because lucky for me, I have a lot of initiative because I'm very curious, which is kind of ironic for me saying I'm reserved like 3 times now. But so I've actually started at ASU with biomedical engineering and was able to explore things like bioinformatics, engineering. And I found I really didn't like these things. And so I went into exploratory, which lucky for me has really helped my job right now. From there, I've just continued to explore. I still consider myself an exploratory major because it just never ends. You always find new things and areas to explore the more you learn. And right now, I found that public health is a great way that I can involve a lot of the social communicative aspects of writing. And I really enjoy my job right now, so I would love to continue that kind of thing. And my classes in politics really match up well with it, and my classes in biology will help the emphasis on the health side of it. And so I think like the skills I have and what I enjoy really match up with these things. And so for me, taking a lot of initiative, I've done a lot of random things throughout the years. I've been in college and before college has come to that point right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
So yeah, I'll be definitely happy to share the professional story on my end. But I'm actually curious, Madison, if maybe, I know that this is definitely not planned, but I'm curious because I know that you've been doing a really good job moderating. But if you're willing to share, I mean, I would love to get to know you a bit better and kind of like your perspective of that in like the Work Plus program.
Yeah, absolutely. I am pretty new to the Work Plus program. I've only been here for about, I would say almost 4 months now. Like I said earlier, I am a communication specialist, which is really great because I'm a double major in marketing and fashion design. I am really looking to get into the PR and marketing side of the fashion industry. It's definitely something that I'm very, very interested in, but I'm just kind of exploring. I'm a sophomore, so I have a little while to kind of just feel everything out, explore all my options. So I'm interning for my mom this summer, actually, at a real estate company. So I'm really excited to be running a lot of the graphics and the social media content for that. But I also do run a lot of the graphics and social media communication content for the whole Work Plus program, which has been so great. And honestly, just such an amazing career building experience that I honestly don't think that I could have gotten anywhere else that's like flexible enough with my school schedule. So that's been really awesome.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I was always curious because it's like we always see you moderating, but like who exactly is Madison on the other side? So.
Well, I appreciate it.
Definitely. And yeah, I think this may be the last question, so I'll give a stab at it. By any means, I'll tell you this. If you ask me this, like even tomorrow or 1 week from now, I may give a completely different answer, but I'll at least try to do my best to kind of convey somewhat of a story and maybe some value to those that are listening. So yeah, for me, it's a little bit of a fractured story, at least from college, because I started out in engineering thinking that I would make a killing, right? Make a killing in computer science. That was the plan. Definitely, as I said, got humbled really quickly and realized that maybe I should slow my roll. Then I switch over to business, particularly in finance. As I kind of alluded to, that's where I will be starting as a career, more or less in a finance role. But truly, I think what I see a lot of growth or a lot of like opportunities is definitely in the sales aspect. So particularly maybe one day try to work my way into that account executive level so I can be working with clients more so on the business to business side, and anything particularly in IT, SaaS, software as a service, or even cloud-based solutions such as that of Google Cloud or Azure. That would definitely be a really cool opportunity as well. So that's definitely something I'm going to try to work towards, but one day at a time and see how that goes. But as I said, it's going to be a little scattered, but I think what I kind of wanted to convey is, as someone that's about to graduate, I think there was 4 key principles I learned every single year. So I think I'll just share them if that's okay, and it won't take too long.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Perfect. So freshman year, again, some of these are stories that I've heard, so they're not original, but first year was, I learned is what's really fascinating about college is this is the only 4, I don't want to say only, but it's 4 years of your life where you're really on no one else's schedule but your own. Because what I mean by that is, after college, assuming you want to make a paycheck every 2 weeks and cover for rent, housing, food, etc., you really are on the paycheck of the employer. So that's kind of where your time will always be prioritized first. And then obviously before college, I believe it's government mandate that you actually have to attend school. So that's not a choice there as well. So really, freshman year, I learned that, okay, college really is a sample platter. You really choose how you want to construct it. If you skip class, I mean, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you not to do that, but it's just like you are in control because you pay to be here. And because you do that, however you decide to live your life, that's the narrative that you choose. And then moving on to sophomore year, this is more or less when I discovered a book called 12 Rules from Life, or 12 Rules for Life, written by Dr. Jordan Peterson. If no one knows who that is, no worries, it's a good recommendation. But one principle that stood out from the 12 rules was to compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not to who someone else is today. Definitely, as we all kind of see, we always want to like kind of be the best compared to ourselves to others, but definitely being able to kind of take a step back and have the discipline to compare yourself with who you are, that's most important. Third one is, it's a story about a traveler. People always say the grass is always greener, but that's not always particularly true. What's more important, I think, is perspective, because the story was 2 travelers going to a new town. One asked like, how is it going to be? And they said like, how was the last town? And they said like, oh, it was great. Everything was nice. People were nice. And they said that you're going to have a great time in this town. And then the vice versa, someone else comes in and they said, oh, it was miserable. People never helped each other out. Couldn't ever get along with people. And the person said the same thing, like, oh, you're not going to have a great time at this town as well. And what that really entails is it's really perspective. People always say the grass is always greener, but that's actually a fallacy. It's actually really your perspective. And then the last quote, this is, I guess, for me, entering this working, going into the professional world. This is by John Milton, who was a ADP sales director. And he said something along the lines of, when you become older and you start to have kids, you never want to be able to look your kid in the eye and tell them, like, if you ask you, like, oh, is it possible to buy, like, me these baseball cards or something? And you would have to tell your kid in the eye, like, sorry, like, money's been tight. I can't afford this for you. And that's because you can't afford it to them, because you really took the shortcuts in your life and you never really wanted to seek things out fully in that nature. So the moral of that story is, like, really don't take shortcuts in a career, definitely, especially when starting out. And those are key four principles. I know it's a little spontaneous, but I think that's how I best interpreted the question. And maybe one of those things for those listening seems interesting enough to consider. So hopefully that was okay.
Absolutely. I thought those were great. Definitely, I will be taking them into the rest of my college experience. I do still have a few more years. But that was awesome. Thank you so much to our two student panelists, Faith and Jasper. We really, really appreciate you guys both taking time to sit down and chat with us today. We know your time is valuable, and I totally appreciate it. Without further ado, I am excited to announce the winner of our third Amazon gift card. Drum roll, please. Our winner is Crystal Woods. Congratulations. You'll be receiving a gift card within the next week via email, so just make sure you are on the lookout for that. And with that, thank you all so much for having me today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Scott.
Awesome. Thank you, Madison, and thank you, Faith and Jasper. You all have impressive stories, and really thank you for sharing that with all of us. Jasper, I love that you kind of turned the tables on Madison. That was not planned. And Madison, you did a fantastic job on the spot, kind of telling your story, even though you've only been, in the program for a few months. So I love that. I'd like to take a little bit of time now just to give you all an update on some of the things happening in Work Plus and some opportunities you can take advantage of. We're getting to the end of the spring semester, and we, as the Work Plus office, we really want to celebrate kind of all the great work that both our working learners and our supervisors have done this semester and throughout the last year. So we're hosting an in-person celebration here at the Tempe campus. It's going to be Wednesday, April 27th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's an open house type of event, so you can come and go as you please. We're going to be providing lunch for anyone that attends. There'll be some Work Plus swag bags for you all, just as again, a thank you for all the hard work you've done, and really an opportunity to connect with colleagues. So if you want to connect with other working learners, with the Work Plus staff, or with supervisors alike, there'll be opportunity there, but nothing, no ask of you besides just to show up and celebrate. You can register for this event on our events page at the Work Plus website, and you should have received some communication from our program coordinator, Abby Anderson, around there as well. I'm also really excited to share with everyone that we do now have an official Instagram page for Work Plus. So Madison, who just moderated that panel, and if you didn't know, I think that was the first time she's ever moderated a panel. You did an amazing job, Madison, but she also runs our Instagram and our social media. So we've launched that page. If you're not following it, I definitely ask that you give us a follow. We are giving out another one of these $25 gift cards to Amazon to one of our student followers this Friday. So if you're not following, all you have to do is follow our account, and on Friday we're going to be doing one more drawing for this last $25 gift card. With that being said, I want to thank all the panelists for all the information they gave us. Thank you all for participating today and showing up. This is the end of our event. Have a great rest of your day. We hope to see you at our in-person celebration at the end of the month. Have a great day.